Hi, guys, and welcome to The Truth Hurts with me, Tony Quinn. The Truth Hurts is a show about recovery and everything in between. So today I am so super excited to have your fave Felon and Heather. Oh, now I forgot your surname again. How do you
Birth
say
you.
it?
Birth
Barthew
you.
on The Truth Hurts with us today. Heather is one of the most amazing women I have ever seen or heard of, or it like your story is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. You're a woman who has been through addiction, has been through the prison system, and has come out stronger and braver and vocal, saving lives every day through TikTok and with humor, with satire, making people laugh and educating at the same time. And I am honored to have you with us. I'm honored for you to
Thank
share your
you.
story with everyone. And yeah, just give a little bit of an introduction into who you are, and we can
Yeah,
chat about your experience.
yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Heather. I'm 35 years old. I spent most of my 20s in addiction and in one toxic relationship that kind of went hand in hand with that addiction. Um, you know, I didn't grow up in a crazy situation. I can't say that what's happened to me is because I was abused or because, my mother, did horrible things or anything like that. I came from a very good home life, and I don't know. It's like once I got older, I just lost all sense. I lost all common sense. Like as soon as I turned like 18, I was like, I got dumber. I don't know what
I relate
happened.
so much.
Like I seriously, I was like, there was no rhyme or reason. And yeah, it just what started as partying, and it just, eventually you fuel that addiction because it costs money. And it ended up costing me, I had a job with the airlines that I loved. I was going to Iowa State University. There's other things I haven't talked about yet on TikTok, and I'm not sure I'm ready for the world to know. But
Only
there's
when you're
more
comfortable.
as I know. Yep. It's as cause I saw you had a video kind of talking about that the other day, and I was like, yeah, I get that. And I don't know, the guy I was dating, we were just so toxic, and there was just so much gaslighting between the two of us. And before you know it, we were selling drugs and selling large quantities, and we were, involved with some really sketchy, really scary, powerful people. And it landed me in prison. Never had I been in trouble. I had like one little minor thing that had happened, but nothing I had actually been in trouble really. And it landed me in prison. Like they didn't give me a chance. They were like, nope, nope, you're going straight to prison. And I always wonder, had I been given probation, like I really thought I would have been given, would I have been, would it have opened my eyes as much?
Yeah.
Because so as much as like it was the worst day of my life when the house got raided, like it was also the best. um it gave me the chance to get away from all of my life problems that were causing these problems. It gave me the chance to just sit and think. Literally, I had nothing else I could do.
Yeah.
Sit and think. And it's just kind of when all of this was born. Like I was, I didn't want to live like that. There was no reason for it. It was, so, and it's taken a lot of hard work. And I stumbled onto TikTok, literally stumbled onto TikTok. So I never expected my story to be as well received as it was. So yeah.
I think what's so powerful is your honesty and your brutal honesty in the TikTok videos with that sense of humor, the satire and the humorous take. We both know, and you said it earlier, it's a trauma response, but we
Yep.
embrace it. But what I took from that is I was in a very similar position. I came from a good home, I mean, my parents were divorced, there was a little bit of drama, but it wasn't like I grew up in an abusive environment. I became the abusive one. I became the addict. I took the steps to create chaos. And I get that that's something similar to what you experienced. And do you feel like it came maybe from the relationship you were in, or did it start only while you were in the relationship?
Um, I don't. I would, if I'm being honest, so like my biological dad, he was never really involved in my life. But I did, my mom got married when I was very young, and my stepdad, and he raised me, he's my dad. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. Um, but those few developmental years where my biological dad was not around, I feel like that kind of gave me a, I don't know what, like, I hate the term daddy issues, but like, I really do. And I feel like this person that I was in a relationship with, he was older than me. Yeah, he was older than me. And I think I was seeking that, and I just completely lost all sense. I literally lost all my common sense. I don't, like, I can't explain it. So I don't know. I don't necessarily blame him or think it started in our relationship. I think I sought it out in a
Exactly.
way. Yep.
That's the most important thing, and I think that's like that's something I struggle to come to terms with personally. I loved to throw blame and play the victim in the beginning, and I was like, it's because of A, B, C,
Mhm.
D, or this guy or that guy, and eventually I realized I knew who he was, I knew what he was doing, and I was keen, I was amped, and I was ready to go and see where the
Yep.
world took me, you know?
Yep. Willing, so willing. I held on to, I held on for a while that when him and I met, I don't mean to say he's not normal, but he was a normal person. He had a good job. He had a good home. He had a nice vehicle. He paid his bills. Like, he was, in all sense, like the normal person. And I held on to that for so long. After, 7 years, I held on to, like, that's not the guy I met when we became this like really toxic um duo together. I mean, it was a power couple of toxicity. Like, it was,
I love that.
you know, like, it was a toxic power couple, and it's just his demons dance so well with mine, and I, I hope to never experience a relationship like that again. But at the same time, I don't know that people could even understand what it's like when that toxicity is just so on point with somebody else's toxicity. Like, you have no control. You have
Yeah.
no control. And I think the healing comes when you finally learn that you have to take control, or it will eat you whole. Like, my addiction really was my relationship. And I think that that's why I've not battled so much with, like, the feeling of wanting to be high since I've gotten sober. I don't battle that very much. Like, in the very beginning, maybe a little bit. Um, but I really learned, like, my addiction was my relationship. Like, I am a serial monogamous person. I like to be in a partnership. I like to be, a half of something. I'm not that person that wants to be single and live my best life. I'm just not that way, and I never have been. And I had to really like navigate what is actual codependency and what was actually what I like. And, being in prison, they pretty much wanted to pound it into my head that I was codependent. And I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. I know what makes me feel good. I know what being a part of makes me feel good. He was just not the right one.
Yeah.
you know,
In
it's
regards
crazy.
in regards to prison, did you go in for drugs? The charge was it's
Yes.
related to drugs?
Yep.
Uh,
So when I got arrested, I was arrested on two Class Bs and a Class C. So it was two 50-year sentences and a 10-year. So it ended up being 135 years. It was a lot. I was terrified. They had slapped me with, like, a tax stamp violation. They'd slapped me with possession with the intent to deliver, the conspiracy, all sorts of different things. Um, Once I got through, like, the court proceedings and learned basically about it, like, those were all just placeholders, if you will, just to make something stick. But
yeah.
I actually ended up pleading to a Class C, which was 10 years, but I had an 18-month mandatory. So I
How
could not
long
get
did
out for
you
any reason.
how long did you serve?
20 months total.
Oh, wow. Wow. And then to go from, I think you're like me where it was you kind of got through life without too many consequences, and then you get something like that is life-changing. What was it? I mean, please feel free if you're uncomfortable answering any questions, please tell me
Yep.
and we can move on. What was it
No, we're
like
good.
on the inside? You know, did they have any programs in place to help you deal with whether it was addiction, relationships, and rehabilitation to integrate in the outside?
Yeah, so I was actually forced into they called it STAR. It was Sisters Together Achieving Recovery. And it was the prison system. If you went in on a drug charge, you automatically, whether you did the 9 month or the 3 month one, was dependent on how long you were going to be there. Since I had a mandatory, I had to do the long one. And it was what they called a therapeutic community. Let
You
me
went
tell
to
you,
prison to be a star.
if this wasn't the most horrible experience about prison. So it was, they would literally, so a therapeutic community is basically you hold each other accountable. There's like these sets of rules and everybody is to follow them, and everybody's in survival mode trying to get through their stuff and not get extra time and get home when they're supposed to. So people are eating this shit up. I'm not kidding when I said that we had to be up, I think it was like 7 a.m. We have to sit in a circle. They made us sing songs. Okay. Like sing. Yes. Yeah. Right. I'd rather hammer nails into my feet. And I don't mean like songs like Kumbaya. I mean, like, they have taken like the Barney song, like the I
No,
love you,
stop.
and changed the words and made these songs. Like they did like a rendition. I remember sitting there like my first day and I was like, there was glitter on the walls. It was pink and it was purple and yellow in there. There was artwork everywhere. I was like, this is not like, they did this like rendition of stop in the name of love, but they changed it to stop, don't do no drugs. Like
Stop it. We must see Ryan's face.
It's crazy. It was crazy. And you would have to pull each other up. Like, if you cussed, I would have to walk up to you and be like, Tony, I am verbally pulling you up for insubordinate language. And then you're not allowed to do anything. All you have to say is thank you. Basically, like, thank you, I acknowledge that behavior. And then they would bring us together every night after dinner, and we'd have to go through all the pull-ups, and you'd have to get up and you'd have to face the person that accused. It was, and you couldn't react. It's just this like total image breaker. It's this total like spirit breaker of a, but it worked. I was like, if this is what this is, I'm not coming back. I will not do this again. I promise you that.
It gets you out of that place with that.
Yeah.
That is bad. Look,
It was
okay,
crazy.
I can see what they're trying to do, obviously. But I mean, it's the fake accountability for me. It's like you just have to say, thank you, I acknowledge what you said, but you're not taking accountability for anything. You're doing it because you have to.
And what really upset me about that type of program is because there's already so many women in there that are so used to just being plowed over and just being stepped on and just not, basically been told their whole lives to not react, to not fight, to not stand up for themselves, and then to basically force women to do it with hanging hanging their home date over their heads for it. I never, it did work for me in the sense that it was so awful. I was like, I will not do this again.
Yeah.
But there was so much fundamental things in there that I'm like, it's just teaching women to shut up and take it, like, or that you can't react, or that you can't have a bad day. And that was something when I got home. I remember like the first like fight I had when I got home. It was between my sister and I, and I was just having a bad day. I was irritable. I don't even know what the factors were. I was not high. I was not using. I was not doing anything like that. There's a whole family sitting next to me and I'm yelling. I was like, it was nothing like that. I was like, we just got into an argument, and my whole family came after me. They were like, "Are you high? Are you using drugs? What are you doing?" And it was just like a kind of that I don't want to say re-victimization, but just that like I'm having a bad day. And that's what I did not like that about that program. Like
I
I
know
get it.
exactly
If
what you
you're
mean.
it just there's I am one of the more louder, vocal, will stand up for myself kind of girl, but a lot of women in prison are not that way because they've been
Oh
abused or
wow.
they've, you know, they're just kind of in these shells of people that I don't know. There was I feel like that program, I don't know. I don't think they have it anymore. I've been told they got rid of it. So I don't know. It was crazy. It was a crazy experience. When people ask me, how it was, I'm like, you can't even begin to guess. Like people
There's
think bars and, no.
people think like, and I see in all your comments, I swear you can't get through any comment section on your videos without saying, is it like orange is the new black?
Yep. So I, it, the first season of Orange is the New Black, I felt was actually pretty valid. They handled a lot of the same issues. They talked about a lot of like the diversity in that season was pretty true. But after the first season, it literally became, you could just tell it was made for TV.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit on another girl's bunk. You're not having sex in the room. It's not happening at all. People do it, but it's not just like in plain sight like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it's not the same, but the first season was the most relatable.
Okay, that's interesting because I swear in every comment
Yeah,
section, that's what people ask. You could
every
do a whole
comment.
video on that. Okay, so
Yep.
when you,
Yep.
in terms of your addiction, so you were a drug addict, pre, your charge was based on drugs, and then when you went inside, you immediately kind of forced to get sober. Was there
Yep.
any available? Did anyone smuggle anything through? Was that a thing that could happen?
Yep. Yep. It does happen. Now I mean, it went from everything like the pill line, the med line.
Mm-hmm.
They would have you. I had a tooth, uh, uh, something wrong with my tooth at one point. I was on meds for like a week, but like they make you like open your mouth and move your tongue and do all of that. But some people get away with it that way. That's few and far between. Actual like large amounts of contraband being smuggled in, I never saw that. But what I did see a lot was girls who would go to, not necessarily to get in there and like sell the drugs, but to just get a high in there. Like there would be a visitor that would come. Now the visitors don't go through the same like rigorous like strip down that the inmates do. So they would just come in, walk through a scanner, and be done. And like they'd have pills, and they had like a bathroom that with a door. They didn't. They weren't required to be searched when they went to the bathroom like we were. So I know for a fact that like they would go in there and take the pills out of their bra or whatever, keep them in their hand, go back into the visiting room, and like you could share food. Like they had vending machines. So I know like a couple people like their trick was have a bag of chips. The person reaches in to grab a chip, drops the pills. The inmate reaches in the bag to grab a chip, grabs a pill, and gets high that way. But I never saw like actual like dealings going on.
Yeah.
I just know that that's how some people
How
got
did you
through, if you
navigate
will.
that in terms of putting down the drugs? Because how did you navigate it in prison? Did you do any kind of did you go in and decide you're done with meth, like you're done with your drug of choice, or did it kind of happen slowly that you were like, okay, this I'm not going to pick up again?
So I went through like while I was in county. I was in county for like 3 months, and I went through like all the stages. I was like, you know, I'll never do that again. Like I went through like this hyper fixation on just making this crazy like millionaire life for myself when I got out with like no real plan. Just like, oh my, it's just that up. When you come from that down, you just it's up. You know, it's like all this serotonin returning, like your chemicals like starting to rebalance. So you're just like, I can do anything, not even realize like you have no money. Now you have a criminal record. Nobody's gonna trust you. You know what I mean? Like, no, you're not gonna do that. Like just sit down. And once I got to prison, I just I don't know. I would see the girls come in, you know, after I had been there a while and I was healthy and like I was running, I was working out, I had my mind straight, and I was like, I would see the girls coming in off the streets and I was like, is that what I look like? And it just really I, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Um I didn't even like how I felt on it. I didn't. I can't even drink really strong coffee now because I'm like, oh god, I hate this feeling.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it was instant. I guess I knew I was gonna do what I needed to do once I got out because I did not want to be one. I mean, I saw people come back 3, 4, 5 times in the 20 months I was there. Like,
Wow.
how do you even do that? I don't like, it's like you literally have to get out and fuck up. Like the day you get out, you fuck up. Like that's the only time frame that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was my motivation, honestly. If I had had a more enjoyable time in prison, and some women don't mind it. I don't know if I would have been able to give it up so easy.
That's interesting. That's such an interesting thing to actually think about, you know? Oh,
Yep.
wow. I've never ever thought of that. That some people, like, you know, they go in there and they can navigate it, they can enjoy it. It's actually similar to rehab. It's similar to, well, not, you know what I mean? Like going to
Yeah.
rehab. So when I went to the same rehab 3 times. And it's because I enjoyed it there. I could navigate it and I could make my way through. I would leave, mess up, go back. Like it was just a part of life.
Yep.
But so there is, you know what it is? You had a real consequence. And I feel like consequence is so important. And if someone does go to prison or rehab, enjoying it and being okay there, that's not a real consequence. And
Right.
because you experienced a true one, that's where your change came and that switch.
Yep.
And I know it's
Yep.
like a
I
one day at a time kind of switch. Because I mean, you must have, as soon as so when you were released, you start to realize, oh shit, like I can build a life for myself, and now I've got too much to lose. Your freedom essentially is too much to lose, which is
Yep.
which is a huge driving force, I would believe.
Yep. Like I went to rehab as well, and I did the same thing. I was like, nah, nope. You know, I was court ordered to it twice, and I risked it. I mean, I left one time knowing I was going to have a warrant out for my arrest. You know, and it was I nope, I didn't care. That wasn't it. That wasn't rock bottom for me. That wasn't enough. So it's just weird what some people value and what some people don't mind. And
Yeah.
I will tell you my honest moment when I know I changed. I was I used to do the floors. Like I would clean floors. I was on the floor crew. And so I would get to like move about the prison because I was very low risk. I'd move about the prison like kind of at my leisure and do floors while other units were sleeping. And I remember standing by like a door in the psych unit, and they have like these double doors that would open, and they have like this. They called it the bird cage. It was a fenced caged in patio. And I just remember standing there looking out, and I remember seeing that it was just pitch black, and there were stars in the sky. And it dawned on me at that moment, I had not been outside at nighttime in like 6 months.
Wow.
And I just lost it. I started crying. I started like just it's like that all came through right then and there. I was like, because that's something I love being outside at night. I've always loved nighttime. I love the stars. I love the moon. I love that kind of thing. And it really dawned on me at that moment, like my freedoms, the choices I've made have really stripped me of something so basic that I can't see the stars if I want to.
Oh, that's making me emotional because
Mm, it was,
wow. You know
yeah.
what I've also realized in terms of that is it's sometimes for people, it was for me, it's the smallest moment that can change everything. And people speak about, I had this big spiritual awakening, and sometimes it's not, or I hit the most hectic rock bottom, and these horror stories. But sometimes it is that's the smallest thing that you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I want to do this, and you just do it.
The guard that was on duty at the time, he was like, "What is your what is happening? What is happening?" And I told him, and he was very kind. He actually opened the door and let me go out onto that the bird cage. And I remember just standing out there and I just remember like I almost want to cry now thinking about I just remember like just tears coming down my face, and I was like, what have I done? What have I done? And it was like that night when I got back to my unit, I wrote this big letter to my ex, because at the time him and I were still talking. He was in prison and I was in prison, and we were talking through people on the outside, and we had all of these plans, like, we do love each other. We're gonna jokes on now I realize how ridiculous that sounds, but at the time, like, we really thought we would get together when we got out and we would be fine. And I remember writing this big long letter and just crying. I was just bawling, like one of like 3 times I cried while I was there, and it was horrible. And I went and I wrote a letter on the email to our friend to forward, and just saying, like, I think my life moves on without you, and so on
Wow.
and so forth. And it wasn't but like a week later that this girl he had always cheated on me with, and like told me I was crazy, and like I had done some crazy shit, like to get the truth. I had done some crazy things to make sure I wasn't crazy, like, to know, because he was
I get
so,
it.
yeah, yeah, crazy things. And he she showed up there, and I went up to her and I was like, I forgive you for everything. I said, she was like, oh, and she was sincere, and she was like, I'm sorry for everything. She was like, even now, when him and I are talking about when we get out, I'm like,
Ooh.
I was like,
Wow.
so yes, girl, yes. And I was like, what, this is not who I am. This is not the kind of life I want for myself, and these are not the people I want in it. And that was my pivotal moment. It really was. And that's when I really came to the terms of, like, yeah, I like the weight I lost and the energy I had, but like, was that what I was addicted to, or was it this man? And when I dove into that, like, that's when a lot of stuff kind of, you know, made a lot more sense for me. And that's when it got easier.
That's beautiful. That's really
Yeah.
beautiful. I like that whole story because of the elements of forgiveness. And within that forgiveness, you get this massive awakening that, like, it's you know what it is? It's self-love. And you don't
Mhm.
see it in the moment, but you're like, I don't deserve this. I just don't deserve this, and I'm gonna make things better. So when
Yep.
you got out, can you tell us a little bit about that process? Because your story, I mean, what you're doing now, I mean, you're even making a business. You're doing some amazing, amazing, amazing things. And I think to share that part, so you've been through the ringer, you've been through more than most people could ever cope with. And you get out, and now look at you with what, like almost 200,000 followers on TikTok, or more, a massive following, people that just love you, look up to you. You're doing amazing work. You are getting this message out there, and it's so important for people who are struggling.
Thank you.
It's so
I,
important for people who are struggling to see someone like you flourish. So can you take it? And also, you're married now, if I'm right.
yes.
Tell
Yep. Got
us.
married in February.
Tell
Yep.
us all the
So,
beautiful things.
okay. So when I got out, and I would like to say too, I think that a lot of what had gave me like made me successful is I had a lot of support. So many women and men in prison don't have support. And I think that was a huge factor. My grandmother my grandma is my biggest fan. Like I've made videos depicting her where she's like, my baby didn't do anything. Like she would be like, you know, I know what you did, but if somebody else said it, she's like, my baby didn't do nothing. You know, like
I love
grandma is
that.
like, yes, grandma is die hard. And she was there every weekend. She came to visit every weekend. She would drive 45 minutes each way to come. She was one every Saturday. I was like the first or second name to be called for visitation because she was there right when the doors opened. She was on first name basis with the COs that worked in the visiting room. She was there every weekend just to just sit and eat junk food with me, and we played cribbage and just talked about all of the things like that we wanted to do, and that gave me hope. And I do think that like I'm still I'll get I'll circle back to this in a second, but she was there. My sister came every other weekend. I had my one of my best guy friends. He was there every weekend. I mean, I stayed in that visiting room with family and friends. My dad came. My dad came probably twice a month. My other sets of grandparents, they came twice a month. Like I stayed. There was times I would get out of a visit, not even get through the door, and my name would come over again. And there wasn't maybe but one or two other people in that entire prison that I felt had that same level of support.
That's so important.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
It was so important because it gives you hope. It gives you hope that like you're not going to just get out and fail. So I was very fortunate in that I had just so many family and friends that were so supportive of me. And then I did not have to go to a halfway house. And I am thankful for that because again, I don't know what would have come of that. I feel bad for those that do have to go there and can't go home or to a family members because it's a bunch of people, you know, the majority of them aren't ready, and you're just kind of putting somebody in a situation to fail. I feel, but at the same time, you know, you can't just keep people locked up either.
Yeah.
So I got to go home. My mom had a condo and she basically rented it to my grandmother and my sister and we lived together. So that was a huge accountability thing. Knowing that like for 18 months, 20 months, I have sat with my grandmother every weekend, promising her I'm not going to fuck up,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh,
So
just
like
on that,
how, go ahead.
just wait. Okay, wait. Carry on. I'll get back. I will circle back to that at another point. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So just like knowing that like I had all of that, like that was, you know, part of the process of keeping me accountable. You know, I do still have a couple friends that are in active addiction and that I love with all my heart. I no longer live in Iowa. I live in Tennessee. And every time I go back, I see them and I hug them and I love them and I enjoy my time that I have, you know, with whatever we go do. But I had to tell pretty much everybody else to, you know, hit the road. And I had so much family. I started another, like, I feel like a big break that I had was this realtor that I had worked for prior to getting in trouble. He is like a huge like community activist and just second chance guy. He's big with like the Latino community about like issues and things like that. I reached out to him while I was in prison and I was like, let me come work for you again. I was like, I don't want to go to McDonald's. No, to anybody that works fast food. It's not what I saw for myself, but that's all I had been told I will be able to do when I get out of prison, you know? And so I basically wrote him a letter while I was there and he wrote back and he wrote a letter to my parole board and he was like, yeah, absolutely. He gave me a fair wage when I got out. I got out on a Monday. He called me on Wednesday. He's like, are you not coming to work? Like he gave me like no bullshit. He was like, you get here, you know, like I said, he paid me fair. He didn't make me feel weird. Like he trusted me in his home, which I'm not saying you can do that with everybody. I am somebody you can, you know, but he never made me feel like I was less than. And, you know, I worked with him for like the first 8-9 months I was out. And then I actually met my husband. And I was working part-time at a cosmetology school. And it was like my first like real job. And I was So like I stopped working for him and I moved on to this job and I was like, I'm gonna like, hell yeah, look at me. I'm a felon and I've got like, I'm working at a college. The lady that hired me knew about my record, but she did not tell anybody above her. It
Oh no.
it came back and when they wanted to give me a company car and I got fired. And
No.
yeah. And she wouldn't stand up for me. She wouldn't acknowledge that her and I had talked about that in my interview. So I remember going to my mom's and I was just bawling. Like this, it was just total defeat. And I had met my husband a couple days prior to that, and he was working on the pipeline, and he was in Iowa for a job, and we hit it off. And I was like, "Listen, I can't leave the state. Like, I'm not allowed to leave." I was like, "I have this awesome job," and he was like, "Just come with me." He's like, "I'll teach you everything I know. Like, get into a trade. Like, you'll make more money and you'll know what to do with. It's hard work. It'll be good for you." I was like, "There's no way I can. I can't do it." Um, I got fired 2 days later. And then for whatever reason, my parole officer was like, "Yeah, you can go. You can go to Alabama with
Oh
no address on
wow.
file with this random person." I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Seriously?" Like she let me go, and I've never heard of them doing that for anybody else. And that's when I got into a union. He kept his end of the deal. He taught me everything. He got me a job. I worked my ass off in 100-degree heat, 90 hours a week, and it was humbling. And I that's when I became like obsessed with like people getting into trades and
Yes.
learning the
Yes.
unions. Yeah, getting into a union and learning a trade. And I tell people that all the time because getting in there and making that money, I had health insurance, I have, annuities, there's pensions, I had a great paycheck, I paid off all of my fines. It was something I was proud of. It's hard work. Nobody looks down on me for it. When I would start talking to people like, "Well, what do you do?" Like, "Oh, I operate heavy equipment on the pipeline." People are like, "That's awesome." And I craved that because like one of my biggest fears getting out of prison was I was just going to be looked down upon, like, and pitied. Be- Maybe because I'd done that to people. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. But so that's just where it started. And I just kept going and going and going. And now him and I are starting, he's got a trucking business he just opened. I'm getting ready to open a business in Knoxville, Tennessee. It should be open next month. I'm looking into a nonprofit. I want to create a nonprofit that helps felons get good jobs and helps them get into the trades because
Yes.
they tell you about it while you're in prison, but they don't actually give you the resources to do it. They're like, "Oh, those programs are there," but I'm pretty intelligent and I could never find them. So just more accessible. And I really want to do some kind of program where people that don't have people that come visit, like you can set them up with people to come visit because that was so huge. I don't know. And it just keeps spinning.
Earlier I said I'm going to circle back to something. It was
Yeah.
because I know you. Like I just feel like I know you. I knew you were going to say something about that. When you said, okay, so what you figured out, what worked for you was the constant, the sense of community with your family and sense of support and getting out and finding a trade and being part of a union. And those three things I feel were the most important in your journey. And those three things are actually lacking within the prison system. And within that,
Yep.
that's what people need. And I knew you were going to say you're going to look into a nonprofit in regards to that. What do you
Yep.
think can be done around that?
See, I feel like, and I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to be a victim in this, but I feel like people like myself that went to prison like that, I have always called it the middle child, like the prison system's middle child, because I was I was there, like I was told like, "Oh, you can take free college classes while you're there." I was like, "Okay, maybe this won't be wasted time. Let me go." Well, I get there and they're like, "Oh, you won't be here long enough. You can't do it. That's just for the life long term. Okay. Well, you're here too long to do this, so you can't do that. And it was just like these people with these mid-sized sentences don't get anything, like any help, in my opinion. I was told there was vocational stuff I could do, but every time I reached out to try to find it, nobody had any information. It's like they would just tell us things to kind of keep the peace,
Yes.
or to keep us hopeful, but there was never anything of substance to back it. But yet there was, and I don't mean to come after this girl, like, because it's her story, but there was also, I've heard of women that have been there for life, or 30 years, but their case was so high profile that if they do get out, they get out with the help to buy a house, to have a full ride scholarship to a college. They get help getting their driver's license, they get help buying a car, whereas I was tossed out with a record, lost my driver's license for a year, and $20,000 worth of fines, and nothing. And that's not fair. And that's why, like, if I could create this nonprofit, like, that's what I want to focus on, is like us middle people.
That's amazing. And I think that's probably the biggest percentage of people actually going in and out.
Yep.
And they're being discarded almost, and there's no real kind of rehab, but no real reintegration. And the reintegration comes in the form of support, comes in the form of trades, comes in the form of unions. And that's why this is just at the crux of everything. I feel like this is one of the most important parts of your story, is to, what worked for you, and that can work for other people. And the fact, I saw you on a live the other night, night here, it was day for you, when you were discussing, someone was so desperate for help, and they were like, how do I get work? And you spoke about a union, and you spoke about that kind of stuff, and people were just so grateful. They were just so grateful to hear someone say there is hope. And I think that because of, you are really building a powerful online profile, I genuinely think that you're going to create this nonprofit, and I think you're going to put together something. And even if you don't, the fact that you are saying it and people are listening is what matters now. And the respect, and the love I have for you in my heart for what you're doing is just, there's no words.
Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely a need for it, and it's like, and that's kind of what I've always maintained, is like, people are like, oh, you've done so much, like, you're such an inspiration. My hair is driving me nuts. Like, you're such an inspiration, this and that. And I'm like, and I love and I appreciate hearing those things, but at the same time, I'm like, my story is not unique.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this too, but nobody has access. Like I said, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I know how to research, I know how to pick up a phone and call, I know how to write letters and try to get answers. And all of these programs that they were telling me were there were not. So I imagine somebody that's not maybe as savvy as I am trying to find the information. I mean, they've just made it impossible. And then it seems like the organizations that are there, they're so geared towards like the high profile people, or the people that are in for murder, or like people like child molesters, like people that everybody naturally will turn their back on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that's not the majority of the people. Like, so you're not fixing the problem. The majority of the people.
Absolutely.
And wow. It's crazy to me.
That is eye-opening, because it's just something people just don't talk about it. They just don't. And I know what you mean when you say, when someone says to you, you're an inspiration, it's uncomfortable, and it's like, I know that I'm not the only one who's got the story. But what is so inspiring truly is the vulnerability and you have empowered yourself to a point where you can actually speak about this openly in the public. And that's what's so inspiring, because that's what changes lives. And when someone tells you that, just take it, dude. Just be
thank you.
I'm the same.
Thank you.
I get it. I'm just so freaking proud of you. Oh, and then sorry, we discussed that. I just wanted to know, how's your recovery going? I know you still drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I know, like, I've interviewed so many people, and you haven't touched any substances at all, like in terms of, your drug of choice and other kinds of drugs. So you found your recovery and what works for you. And I also want people to know that that's a thing as well. You can
Yeah.
find what works for you. So would you, because I
Yep.
know, like, I look, for me, I will never, ever, ever, ever touch alcohol again because I know my addiction and that kind of stuff. And I also just think people need to also be aware that there's no need to go on the attack with anyone who does choose to drink, or if you
Right.
are able to manage it. And that's the important thing. And I think you've shared about it as well in a live. I don't know if you don't want this on here, you can tell me, but
No, no, no.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't mind. So yeah, I do drink. I love me some beer and some wine. I'm not even gonna lie. It does not affect, my life in that sense. I would never risk ruining my life over it. And I know there are a lot of people that that's not true for. I have friends that don't drink, and that's fine. Like, we don't have to do something that involves drinking at all. I do support cannabis. I personally did not utilize it because I was in a union. So that's like drug testing, DOT drug testing. My job was is worth more than that. But I support the science behind people that use cannabis in their recovery. They call it Cali sober. I mean, it's the science is there for it, and I support that. And I support people that do the 12 steps. That's not something that worked for me. I felt too. Mm, I guess like my thing with that was like I felt like too many people do it. Like I need something different. I don't know. It didn't work for me, but it works for so many people. And so if you want me to go to a meeting with you, like, let's go. I know religion and people that have found God, and that's what worked for them. And I support that. And if you want to go to church, go home, smoke your weed, have your glass of wine, and go to an NA meeting, like I will go with you to do all of these things. you know
That's something I find is quite important, and I make sure to say it on my platform because I'm a 12 stepper. I go to the NA meetings and
Yeah,
stuff, but it's not the only available option. And I feel like that's
right.
important for people to know. And people need to, if you do not like the 12-step program and if you do not believe in this, you are going to try different avenues, and
Yep.
there are different avenues available, whether it is religious, whether it is meditation, whether it is just, I don't know, art therapy.
Therapy,
Yeah,
therapy,
yeah.
therapy. When I got out of prison, I had to go talk to somebody, and I swear, like that was helpful. I didn't feel like I needed to share in front of a group because that's what being in that treatment program at prison had kind of made me shy to. I didn't want to do that anymore. I just talked to somebody, and like I found the gym, I found fitness and working out, and like there's so many ways. There's so many ways.
I think that's so important. I think, and I really do make a point, but sometimes, like if I post about NA, there will be people in the comments being like, "This isn't the only thing." And they get angry, and I'm like, "It is. You know what? It is important to show people other avenues. It genuinely is." And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just think it's an interesting conversation to have because the California sober thing has been blown up. People are like, the
Yep.
dank recovery meme pages are hilarious with that. But
Yep.
my thinking around that, and I've said this before, is that there's a difference between sobriety and recovery, in the sense that sobriety, for example, would be no mind altering substances whatsoever, and then
Yep.
recovery is the beauty is finding something that works for you, no matter what it is, where you are living your best life, you love yourself, you're not ruining anything else around you, and you're happy and you're aware of who you are without any. That's recovery. And there's a difference
Yep.
between the two.
Absolutely.
You can be sober and be having the worst freaking life, and I've seen that with people, sober as in
Yep.
nothing, and be depressed and down, and they're not in recovery. And I feel like there's a big difference between those two, and that's the conversation I think that is being had currently, which is quite interesting.
Yep. I agree, and I agree with everything that you said. And I do think that the California sober stuff has is starting to, in a way, get used as a crutch, and kind of giving people the option to not have to do the work. They're like, oh, I'll just smoke some weed and it makes me
Yeah,
not feel as anxious. Like the recovery part comes from when you dig to that raw, that stuff you don't want to hear, the stuff you don't want to see, the stuff you don't want to feel, and you pull it out, you know, and you just you go through it and you organize it and you separate it and you pick it apart, you know. So if you can do that while, you know, helping, like, you know, using cannabis for like the physical, you know, problems that you're having, whether it's anxiety, maybe it's depression, maybe you hurt, you know, but that doesn't mean that they're doing the work. And I think a lot of people are doing it correctly, but I agree with you. It's just been like overpopularized right now. And I think it's a lot of people are just like using that as a crutch. And no, that's not it. You still have to do the work. You have to work every day.
exactly. And
Every
it goes
day.
both ways. Like I could be sitting here and I haven't touched a drug and I haven't touched alcohol in 9 years, but I could be a really miserable person because I haven't done the work. And
Yep.
or I could be sitting here and say, I'm California sober. I smoke weed, and I'm in recovery, and I could be in a much better place than the Tony that was sober and didn't do the work. So it comes down, whatever it is, whatever you choose for your recovery, it comes down to doing that internal hard work
Yep.
and finding that self-awareness.
And
So
that's the conversation, and that's the part that people generally aren't ready for,
yeah,
you
it's a
know.
difficult one because I find myself like, this is just before we wrap up or whatever. I've like always been super strict about like if I meet someone in NA, and that's where my program is, that's what I do. If I got a sponsee and they said they smoke weed, they smoke alcohol, I would personally say I can't sponsor you. But that's because
Yep.
you're in NA, you're in the NA environment, and this is what the rules are here. And if you need to try it. If you're going to be here, you need to try it. And
Right.
that would be my boundary in terms of NA. But I have friends who just smoke weed, don't touch drugs, and don't do hard drugs. They'll smoke their weed, they'll drink, and to me, they're still in their version of recovery. They're just not in NA. And I
You're right.
will. It's just, you know what it is. It's about acceptance, and it's about creating a community where no one is ashamed of what they are doing in their own recovery. That's what's important.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And it's, you know, I don't remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna touch on something you said, but it's everybody's different. And you know, oh, I remember, that's what bothered me about that program at prison, because they made everybody try to fit in the same box. You know, we were all required to do the same assignments. We were all required to do the same schedule, all required to do the same routine, all required to basically be like these sheep, you know, to get through our time and go home. And we're all, every single one of us were different, you know. Some of the women in there were abused, have been molested, have been, you know, victims of domestic violence, like hard, just like stuff I can't even. Yeah, I've been like in some knockdown, drag down, like because we're high fighting, you know, but not like where I've been scared of my life. Like I was also instigating these things. And so they're just so, and then just make us all do the same thing. And like that was something I had a problem with from day one. I'm like, what works for her may not work for me, and what works for me may not work for her. How can you tell us to all do it? You know, and there's just, oh, I could go on and on and on and on about things that don't make any sense to me.
I love that you're giving us a voice, and I love that you're speaking about it. It's also quite a cool way. You know, we started out talking about star, and we can end off on the star note because you are a star.
Yes.
um, but I just really want to say thank you from someone in South Africa who has connected with you through TikTok. You are reaching people all over the world, and
That's
it's
so
needed,
awesome.
it's necessary, and I look forward. Oh, wait, before we do anything, can you tell people where to find you and how to find you online? Tell us a bit of, give
Yeah.
yourself a
Yep.
plug.
So I am on TikTok. That's what the majority of my content is. And my username is your favorite felon, spelled traditionally, exactly how it sounds. And then I'm also on Instagram. I'm learning Instagram still. I'm getting there. It's getting bigger, and it's just your or underscore your fave felon. So I am starting on like a Facebook deal. I'm not quite sure on that one yet. I don't post a lot. Yeah, I don't know too much about that part yet. But yeah, I'm available via email. I try to respond to people. I get a lot of people that message me that they're struggling, and if I can, I will absolutely respond on Instagram. I don't respond on TikTok, but I do tell people also. One of my boundaries is I will respond when I can, and if I have that left in my tank, my emotional tank to respond. So yeah, but just social media. That's it. TikTok, Instagram.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to tell
Thank
people,
you.
they're definitely going to be looking for you. So I don't know how to end this because I'm just in awe of you, and I'm just like, first of all, I'm just so happy to meet you on a personal level as well, because we've connected so much on TikTok, and I just adore you. And
I talk about you all the time.
I'm honored.
I do. I talk about your videos.
I'm truly honored to have you share your story with us. And
thank you.
I look forward to seeing what you're going to do for this world. And I look forward to seeing you grow your NGO one day and just see you take over the platform and be a bad bitch, a bad boss.
Yes, that's right. That is right. We will do it.
Yes.
We're formed. We've got something going on here. I don't know what it is yet, but we're going to take it. We're going to take it and run.
I'm down.
Yes.
But thank you so, so much for your time. What I am going to do now is I'm going to say goodbye to everyone, and I'm going to click stop recording, and then you and I can say goodbye properly. And this is still going to be in the video. So sorry, Rhino. Thank you so much for being with us. We all adore you. I know that you're changing lives. And guys, I will see you all in the next episode. And remember, we do recover. How do I stop recording?
Hit the stop top left.
Bye.